So this here is the worst one. They're censoring the guy's knee, okay? Like, here's my foot guy. Censoring the ankle or something, you know? Like, oh, we're gonna censor this part or something. That's kind of how it feels, yeah. This is going into freaking, like, Victorian area, you know, like late 17th century censoring or something, right? This is sounding like we're back in some freaking, you know, fascist state or something for international use. And suddenly it's like black box over everything. And you're like, holy shit. Am I naked under this black box? Who knows, right? It's up to your imagination, right? So I want to talk about Manga Up here. Square Enix new manga app. And this is seriously how you get pirates, right? And obviously I am against all of that stuff. Of course I am. I've been that guy. When I was a kid, I remember when my friends were talking about, oh, maybe you can ship your PlayStation 1 or something. I was like, no. We buy it. We support the authors or what. Because I've worked in gaming shipment myself. But this is, like, Square Enix thing here. This is the most extreme, whatever you call it, WoW censorship I've ever seen in my life. Like, it's basically unreadable, the mangas on their page. And it's getting like, you look at the mangas they have, right? And you basically believe that it has to be like hentai or something, right? Because they are using these kind of bars all over the place. So you can't even see the characters. You can, some scenes, I read Vermeil in gold, they cover her whole body. So you're just like, I guess she's like naked or something, which she actually is sometimes though, to be fair, in that manga. But some other times you're like, they are censoring a knee, right? So seriously, this is the most extreme I've ever seen in my life, right? Because, you know, who knows, right? Under the box, right? So imagine, for example, right? Look at this in here. This is Terminator. Terminator 2, right? Classic scene. I heard about this like a day ago, and at first I was like, yeah, whatever, you know, it's you know, some woke, because seriously, this is woke, right? And I mean it literally, because they have manga up in Japan, right? So if you go to the Japanese site, it's like an actual, okay, here's the manga, it's the read, right? But then this is like the European or whatever, American, the English version, right? This is like for international use. And suddenly it's like black box over everything. And you're like, holy shit, man. But I'm going to show two examples here. And this is seriously, I'm just imagining, because we've seen it with PlayStation 4, right? And so on. And I mean, I can't see how they believe they can make any money on this. It's seriously like unreadable or unwatchable, some of them. Like I showed it in Terminator. What if Terminator had a black box around every scene in Shadow Corner, right? It would be ridiculous, right? And also everyone would imagine that they're actually supposed to be naked. Like, it looks worse, some of the scenes. But these black boxes are just insane. I'm going to show a few examples here from this site. And honestly though, like I said, I heard about it like a day ago. And I just said, I have whatever, they use some woke bot or whatever, who cares? But the more I saw about it, I was like, holy shit, man. The censorship is literally the worst I've ever seen. It is literally the worst censoring I've ever seen. Not just because it's like completely black box some characters, but because it's like a knee thing. It's just it's stuff that doesn't make any sense. It's probably a bot doing it, right? And yet the company is like, yeah, we'll be probably if we need this thing. It's crazy. And I sat this morning and I read a few mangas, right? That I know I put S or whatever. And it's almost getting into like a funny thing that you instead of reading the manga, you look at the different mangas to try to find the censorship. You're like, I wonder if this manga is censored, right? And it's just so random. So I went into the Dan Mancha episode aired yesterday at 4, and Dan Mancha Hestia, she got big knockers, right? You know, Hestia is quite known for her, so to speak, big oppies, right? However, her, not panties, but her undergarment, whatever thing, right? Because she's weird, this kind of weird white outfit, right? Usually with big up eyes, and kind of, you know, you kind of see her shorts or whatever. Yeah, the short shorts, they are censored, but her massive, you know, yeah, jugs, they were never censored. So I was like, okay. And then they go to Vermeil in gold, like I show you soon here, and she's like a complete black box over her. So it's also doesn't make any sense. Like, it's not even consistent in how they're doing it. It's very, very random. But I really hope that it is someone doing it manually, sitting there doing every panel or something. But I'll show you a few examples here. So first of all, of course, which trended, right? Of course, they're censoring Marin Chan. This makes perfect sense, right? And obviously, I have added colors here, right? Because of copyright and so on, so I added colors. But otherwise, this is how it looks like. So Marin Chan, chapter 1, she's showing Gojo-kun, one of my absolute favorite anime, best girl, whatever. You know how much I love Marin Chan. So she's showing her photo of cosplay, right? And of course she got very big up eyes. So I do, at least in this scene, it kind of makes sense that, you know, Marin got very, very big oppas, boobs are massive, right? But she's fully dressed. I mean, if you've seen this scene in the anime, you add, of course, this here, she's fully dressed, right? Yeah, it's like a kind of revealing outfit, big cleavage, but instead in the manga panel, right, on Manga Up, they just covered it with a black bar. This is, I have not added this black bar, no. This is how it looks, right? I added the color of Mega Blonde and so on. But yeah. So it looks like she's basically showing her oppas to Goju, right? But no, she's fully dressed. But in their version, it looks like, yeah, like she was like, here's my boobs. Right? You're like, okay. So, but I'm not surprised that Marin Chan, of course, gets it, right? Like, of course, Marin Chan's gonna be a censor. And basically, that manga is probably unreadable, right? Because they're censoring her oppas. In the measurement scene, right? Goju has to measure her sizes. Of course, they're censoring her underbody. They're censoring. So that's again what I mean, right? I'm gonna show it here, right? But you know what I mean? Because it looks like it's supposed to be hentai, right? You know, it looks so weird because if they're, imagine, right? Like we're gonna measure this Ram figure, right? And I put a complete black box under her, you know, under her skirt, right? Like a complete black here. You would probably imagine that she is, you know, showing her, you know, lady parts to Goju, right? But she isn't, right? But that's how it looks in their manga because it's completely covered. It's like a massive black box under her, right? Kind of coming back to what I said earlier with my own black box. Yeah, like if you saw me sitting at this, you might imagine that I'm just not wearing anything under this thing, right? You might imagine that I'm sitting here under it being like, oh yeah, I'm completely nude under here. Who knows, right there? That's how it looks in most of Marin's pages. It's completely unreadable. Like seriously. Like my favorite is probably this thing though. So this is a manga I haven't read. This was trending on Twitter, so alright. It's like it's about a guy time traveling to get to his sensei, I believe. A TILF romance storyline. But anyway, obviously I added the colors, but this just makes no sense, right? Like, you know, she's fully dressed, right? This woman is fully dressed. She's a teacher at, like, I think a senior, whatever, you know, senior high school, something like that, you know, maybe college, I don't remember manga, right? She's like a 25-year-old woman, right? She's wearing jeans, yeah, and they have put this black box over her, you know, lady parts. She's fully dressed in jeans. She's not even wearing a skirt. She's not even wearing, you know, like shorts or whatever. She's wearing like full jeans. It goes down to her legs, you know, like her whole legs are covered in jeans. So they're censoring her jeans. And it almost makes it worse. They're censoring the weird black box and a big black box thing. But you're just like, okay, so is the original image, is he like crotchless or something? Is the original image, is just standing there showing her lady stuff to him or something? No, of course not. She's just wearing normal jeans, right? Like, this scene is just one of the most extreme ones. Like, imagine if I took Dirty Dancing, right? And I put like a little black box around, you know, put the baby in the corner. I put a little black box around her, you know, her lady. But it would look so weird, right? It would be like, what happened? Did they have this dirty, this is the father was right, Dirty Dancing, right? Because when they dance, her panties get ripped or something. Yeah, her pants get ripped, right? And you can see everything, something. That's kind of what you would imagine, right? If put a black box around, you know, her area, right? Like that. Yeah, it just looks weird. It looks weirder, right? Because they took a black box and put it over her jeans. And again, though, look at his image here of Dirty Dancing, right? Here, the female character is wearing jeans, but they're short jeans, right? You know, not short, but they're short jeans, right? There's less clothing than the teacher's wearing here. She's wearing full jeans, right? You know, all the way down to her shoes, right? So yeah, this site is the most. I mean, it literally is the worst censorship I've ever seen, and it's so ugly too because it's like these black boxes, right? So this here is his Goblin Slayer. I went to the site and I was like, oh, I gotta look at the dirty stuff. Right? Goblin Slayer is readable here, and yeah, as you can imagine, right? Goblin Slayer, of course, is gonna be uber censored. So this is just when this is the wizard lady that kind of hangs out at the guild, right? She never fights anything. She just kind of hangs out and help people, right? This is her in chapter 1, and she's just like, hey, you want some help, boy? I can sell you this potion or whatever, right? And she's, of course, fully dressed, right? But she got big oppas, she got big tits, right? And yeah, they're just covering her oppas. There's like a big black box, right, over her breast when she stands there. So again, if you haven't read the original or the anime, you would imagine in this scene, right, that she's actually showing her, you know, but no, she's just like, she's wearing a dress with some cleavage. And then in the next scene, look at the panel underneath. This is, I have not added it. I mean, obviously I added the red color and so on, right? You know, I colorized this panel, but I haven't like added the other stuff. And it's just like, this covering her whole, yeah. You can only see her face, like literally, right? And if you go to like Vermilion, it's the same shit, right? Like she just have like a black box around her. at least in Vermeil in gold, I can kind of live with it because, yeah, she is actually naked in some scenes, right? But if you go and read those naked scenes then, right? They're of course censored, right? It's a manga, so they're censored. But even in the normal version, you kind of like, oh, here my tail is covering and so on, yeah. So for example, if you read the actual manga, right, anime is going right now on Tuesdays, she's, sitting there, right, and maybe her hands are covering her area, maybe her tail is coming in, that kind of typical, light kind of edges for that. But if you read it on Manga Up, then they're just covering her body in black boxes. Like I tried reading it. It's like 5-6 pages in a row. It's just black boxes everywhere. Just black boxes. You can barely see her face. It's just like a black box, right? Like, I'm not even joking. It's basically if I took this black box I have, right? Like, this is kind of how Vermeil in Go looks like in many pages. Like, seriously. You can't even see her full face. They're like covering up to her eyes or something, right? And then obviously the box will also be on the side as well, right? So for that matter, the site also really hard to read on. I don't really mind just the paper chapter, like whatever, right? But they also split the chapter. So this is actually literally how it looks. This is a splitting of Goblin Slayer. And you can see here, it's 5 parts of chapter 1. 5 parts. When you read a chapter, you kind of get like 3-4 pages. And then you get like, read next chapter, press this thing and so on. Basically every page is split at this. So every chapter are split into several parts. The Goblin Slayer one is what I saw, it's 5 different ones. But yeah, it's actually a really annoying site to read on. I really want to point it out at that part because, again, I understand the concept is you pay per chapter, right? And it's very popular in Asia. In East Asia, it's very heavily monetized, right? It's very common, I see it a lot in Japanese stuff. You see it in Korea and Chinatown too. So I was surprised by that. But the actual reading experience from an actual like user experience thing is actually really, really annoying. It really is. So I was reading that, I said the Goblin Slayer one to find the different, and basically it taken one chapter, right, and made it 5 parts. So there's like a 20-page chapter, something like that, 20, 19, maybe even less, right, pages, into 5 parts, right? Yeah, it's gonna be like 4 or 5 pages per time, which means that you read it, right, you scroll through it, the 4 pages, then you have to press a button to change and load the next page, and it's like 4 pages, load the next page. So it's a really terrible experience reading it as well. I do think it's probably a little different depending on how long chapter is, right? But it's to split most chapter into it. And that to me is also just a terrible, terrible design, right? I work with this stuff, right, on and off, and yeah, that's just insanely bad UX. It really is. And the thing is that even, let's say like this, like, okay, let's say it costs 10 yen to read one chapter, okay, fine. And if you split it apart, now it costs 5 yen. So to some extent, I can see why they're doing this thing, because they want people to pay that, very, very low sum, right? Whatever it is, like 5 yen, $1, because let's say one chapter costs $10, right? But point that. Let's say one chapter costs $10, but if I can give you, a quarter, it's only $2.5, right? So they really want people to buy that, boop, boop, boop. They want the little tiny, like, monetization, right? Pay, that kind of thing, right? But still, though, it is truly annoying because I used to imagine that, okay, but even if, can I just pay for a subscription and then just, read all of them? No. So it is also a really terrible system, right? Because I would never use this site probably. Just that alone. Like, even if it wasn't censored, that would be terrible. Why? Because you have to reload after 3-4 pages, and you have to do this thing and press the button there. It's so much extra added time, right? They used to be really annoying, and depending on if you use on a mobile phone, so it's even worse. So I think that's really terrible too, for that matter. But anyway, why are they doing this stuff? Honestly, I don't know exactly, but I think it's very classic, right? We see the Fortnite list I mentioned earlier, PlayStation. We see it with a lot of this stuff, right? Where they take the Japanese stuff and they go into the West, right? And they want to do it for Europe and America mostly. And then they're like, oh no, we need to censor it because, they vote and so on. And I think it's terrible, right? Square Enix, you should wake up, man. You saw some other Japanese companies discussing, right? Like Kadokawa and so on, Kudanson talking about that we're not gonna do this thing. We're gonna keep it Japanese, right? And it's really silly because this is how they lose consumers, right? It's how no one's gonna buy this stuff, right? Not only because it's a terrible UX design and generally a bad system design and so on, it's really terrible, but in other parts too. Whatever, I digress, okay? I wanted to 10 minutes talking about why the site is bad, but you get my point. It's not a very good site either, right? But if we ignore that part, the whole idea to censoring the stuff, let me show you the most egregious one, right? This here is the worst one. They're censoring the guy's knee, okay? like, here's my foot, guys, okay? So I was like, censoring the ankle or something, you know, like, oh, we're gonna censor this part or something. That's kind of how it feels, yeah. This is going into freaking, like, a Victorian area, you know, like late 17th century censoring or something, right? This is sounding like we're back in some freaking, you know, fascist state or something. Like, seriously, this is one of the worst. So they're obviously never gonna get the customers from this thing. And I mean, it has to be a bot doing this. I can't see anyone being this woke that they're literally censoring a knee on purpose. But still, though, the reason, though, right? I can't know for certain, right? But the reason it's happening with this insane thing, right, is because someone is sitting there, probably in California, right? Honestly, probably in America, and being like, oh, well, manga need to be censored, evil boobs, and so on, right? They just have a scheme, and then they, of course, are the one. They're developing the bots, right? Or probably not actually literally writing the code, but you know what I mean, that they're asking someone for the code, they want the code for them, and the guy that's code is like, well, okay, you can, like, here's like a slider, you know, to like, how much censorship should it be, you know, in this manga, right? Yeah, how much how much should it be, right? And the you know, the woke guy is like, max! Right? Full on, the knees are gone to no skin, right? But seriously, because otherwise it makes no sense. And that's the other thing it works, because I worked with, you know, video games, I worked with localization for video games, I have worked with many different IT stuff, right, over the years. And for example, I worked both for the government, the military, but also video games. And it's very common that you develop something, and then you have to make it, you know, user-friendly, right? So it's like, here, you know, 55-year-old lady at the military, here's the system I developed for you, right? Because you're gonna control this thing in the military, but it's a very, very easy panel, right? So even if, I wasn't saying what I did there, but I worked on a very, very, very complicated system, okay? With incredibly, you know, 300, 400 developers, incredibly complicated, all the stuff, right? But the actual, you know, user interface that the people should use is incredibly simplistic, right? Even if it has so much controls, because the people using it are supposed to be idiots. Kind of, right? Idiot-proof, right? So it's like, so I worked on a system, for example, where you could simulate like stuff happening to a country. I mean, like, you know, fires, hazards, right? Dam bursting, like, you know, environment things, right? You could simulate that and, like, you know, make a simulation what's gonna happen and so on, right? And so of course they're able to make that user friendly, right? The actual pan has to be super easy and very easy to slide, and so basically, hey, all this data now that you make this, like, literally you make these sliders, right? You give this very easy options, so the kind of the government, you know, like the 55, 60-year-old lady of the government can press like 3 buttons and get what she wants. You know what I mean? That is honestly how it usually goes, right? So I'm just really imagining they're sitting there, right? They're super woke. It's probably what it is, honestly. They're super woke. They want this like censorship bot or whatever, right? A guy or 2 people or whatever, they develop it, right? And it's really bad developed because it's creates these ugly black boxes. It's super cheap, right? And then these woke guys are like, max power on everything. That is honestly probably how it goes. So I still think it is important to point out that, yeah, it is probably based on their political agenda, right? Honestly, I don't like making too much of those videos, but I really do think that, because, yeah, that's what I would imagine, right? It's developed by people, they probably don't care, they're just getting paid for it, right? And then, you know, but they have to give us a kind of option, as I said, some kind of sliders, a kind of option in the settings, how much they want to do it, right? But that still means that the people that have this political agenda, they are the people sitting here with the, you know, the control panel, or something, you know what I mean? They have the control panel, right? And then they obviously probably have like max on everything in the control panel. Because they have a, you know, an agenda, right? That's probably how it goes here. And in the end of the day, I never understand what the Japanese company, and again, I worked with Japanese companies literally with these things when it comes to like localization and so on, and not only localization, but localization, right? I mean, localize a game to the American market, whatever. And I never understood this, because I tell them myself too, is like, no, we don't want to do this thing, right? Because people want to buy the Japanese stuff. Yeah, you're not gonna make money by, you know, catering, right, to mostly, I guess, the far left. I suppose they had to do that way, but you know what I mean? Yeah, you're gonna make money on that. You know, you're gonna make more money, like, you know, mangas and novels from Japan is outselling, you know, comics and so on heavily, right? You know, Chainsaw Man, Macadamia, outselling, you know, whatever, Batman, Superman, and so on heavily, right? Yeah, you're not gonna make money by trying to cater to what they kind of want, and also for that matter, obviously, these people that talk about the stuff, they don't really buy stuff, right? You know what I mean? But in the end of the day, unfortunately, like we see in a lot of these games too, I guess that unfortunately people have a lot of control, right? They get these jobs, you know, yeah. And then they sit there, as I said, on a control panel, and even if they haven't really done anything themselves, technically speaking, or creatively speaking, they have the control panel to kind of slide up the, you know, the max censoring, whatever. But anyway, yeah, this is literally the worst censorship I've ever seen. I think so, honestly. At least from especially from like a technical standpoint, right? Because they've probably been worse that I've seen, but in this way, that they literally add these black boxes, right? Like, it looks like this crap. That the knee thing is like a serious, yeah, it's a knee and you just add like a black box over it. It is absurd, right? Or like this kind of thing, where it's like a black box over the woman in full clothing. It is truly like, from a technical standpoint, the worst thing I've ever seen. And it looks absurdly ridiculous. And of course, as I jokingly say, right, man of the scenes looks sexier almost, right? And that's kind of the end of the day how it's hilarious, right? In that sense. It looks sexier, right? Yeah, because, oh, if you put a black box over a woman's, you know, jeans, right? You are gonna imagine that there is no jeans there, right? You're gonna think, if you never read the original, you see one of these man of these manga panels, but they're censored. You're gonna imagine that, oh, she's like naked under that black box, right? Because the black box is covering her whole underbody, so I guess she has like no clothes on her. And that's why the guy's like, oh, Sensei, you look hot today. But she's actually just wearing, you know, a cute skirt, right? But yeah, if you look at this manga panel, you might believe that she's just showing her complete body to this guy, right? I mean, yeah, like it looks sexier, right? Like some of the scenes, because they're censoring the crotch area, right? Especially a Hestia scene, they you censor her, yeah, here's her bottom, you know, like, yeah, only that, not her up eyes. You would imagine that she's basically, you know, not wearing anything under, just showing her, yeah. So it looks like a hentai, right? Like it's just worse. It's so weird, man. But that's a funny thing I think too, though, because it's always done by the Quest people, and in the way they're gonna make no money on this, no one's ever gonna buy it, and also it looks more hentai-ish because they're censoring in a really weird way. But anyway, guys, please subscribe, press that like button, right? If you like the video, please share the video, and you know, if you want to know more about this stuff, right? So obviously I work with this stuff, and I have written many boss nowadays. I have written automated testing and so on. I've written with both, works with localization, translation and so on, right? It's been years now, though. It's been a couple of years, yeah. Last time I worked with the translation, localization, that was like 19, I think, yeah, 3 years now. But I have a lot of experience. I mean, I actually worked with Square Enix. Now we're gonna get work again now. No, I worked with Square Enix in like 10 years ago. I left F7 Remake too, I guess I was 15, but I have worked there, you know, contracting and so on, right? But it is kind of funny, yeah, it is kind of funny. This is like, holy shit, man. But also, I said here again, right? You know, when I make these videos, I really make them, and I'm a little afraid showing manga panels. Obviously, that's why I record them myself. But I do, you know, it just pisses me off because I have literally sat with people from Square Enix and told them, don't do this stuff, you know what I mean? So in one way, I kind of want them to see this video and be like, oh, okay, we're gonna lose money doing this, because I love, you know, Final Fantasy, so I love Square Enix games, and I have worked with them, and I sat and talked to them, some of their, you know, Japanese people, not, you know, Japanese people, you know, not like their Western middle part, that as well, but to the Japanese, and told them that don't do this stuff, right? You know, don't do this stuff, yeah, like this is not gonna make any money, you're gonna be ridiculed, it doesn't make any sense. Don't censor it, because I worked on one game where they actually wanted to censor the game, the opening sequence of the game, but in the end we published it without that. So I was the one like, no, we can't censor it. People can understand that. So I've been the ones, yeah. But anyway, guys, I will leave it at that. Anyway, see you guys and have a great day.